All right, Tim. So what are the major differences if we go back looking at the Bears tape a month ago versus what it looks like offensively now? Where are the biggest differences as you see them?
Well, I think I'd be the obvious one is the QB run game, right? The one that like is going to jump out at you is there wasn't a ton of QB design run at the beginning of the season. Now we're getting more in terms of actual read zone or actual quarterback sweep or quarterback power. So that's kind of the obvious one. To me, the more nuanced one is what we talked about the first time I jumped on, which is getting Fields some more pure progressions where it's hey, 1, 2, 3, no matter the coverage. And I think you're seeing him become more comfortable with those. And then as he becomes more comfortable with those, guess what? He's playing more confident with the PSLs or some of those dealer's choice where it's like, hey, let's pick a side based on matchup and go with it. So those are getting better. So to me, just generally, when you turn on the tape, his decisions in the pass game, I think the past, let's call it 5 or 6 weeks, have gotten tremendously better. And then now you add in the fact that he's got another weapon. And I think that's where you see, again, was Claypool like fully at, did he have a good acclimation period to getting this offense down? No. But was he out there enough to where you could start to see how he's going to affect this team as a whole and this offense? I think, yeah. And I think, anyone watching that game, right? I do think the Dolphins are really dynamic on offense, but it was so exciting to me as a Bears fan or a Bears observer when you watch that and see how they were able to keep up with them.
What did you see from Fields pre-snap? Like from the moment the play is called to the delivering of the play in the huddle to the orchestration of who's where, reading the front, etc. Because the fact that nothing really jumped out as, oh, that looked weird, and then I realized after the fact, well, he was really in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the screenplay to Claypool, while it's not that exciting from like it's a behind the line of scrimmage throw and it's only 12 yards, is really exciting when you look at the makeup of it. So the Dolphins were in what we call double A, which is we got two linebackers walked up in both the A gap. And the A gap, for the people listening that aren't like, they're like, what the heck's the A gap? It's the gap between the center and the guard, right? So those two interior linemen on both sides, they had backers walked up in it, which creates a really muddy look in the run game, meaning, hey, we're not sure how the double teams are going to sort out because we don't have a clear track to trying to get to the linebacker levels because now they're essentially extra D linemen. So instead, hey, he looks outside, he widens Claypool up a little bit, and instead of running the ball, he just flips it outside and plays one-on-one because they had an off corner, and then Claypool goes and gets 12 yards. So to me, it's like, is that a really exciting play? No, but when you start to peel back the layers of understanding offensive football and what they're trying to get done, it's really exciting because you went from what's potentially a negative run play into a 12-yard gain, which those are those hidden yards where all of a sudden you get your feet moving forward as an offense and you're not all of a sudden sitting in 2nd and 12. Now we've got a new set of downs, new first down to attack with. And to me, those are the little things. In terms of getting them in and out of the huddle, I thought he did a great job. In terms of post-snap decision-making based on kind of pre-snap looks, I thought he did a really good job. And I do think he has total command of this offense. And you're right. We're not seeing as many, kind of WTF plays after they snap the ball.
Tim, what are you seeing when it comes to ball placement by Fields?
I think you've got two clear clips that we could talk about, which is the Mooney touchdown. So the Mooney touchdown where Mooney's, in the slot, the number 3 receiver, and he's in that slot and he runs the takeoff route and Fields kind of back shoulders him. Really good ball, great play, great catch, but also indicative of where this offense is going, which is the ability to now move Mooney around instead of trying to play him as a bona fide X or a bona fide Z. You can now move him into the slot, let him go make plays. So I thought that was one good one. And then the other easy one that everyone's like probably going to start yelling at me about how easy of a throw it is when in reality it's not, but he redeemed himself, right? Everyone remembers national TV missing the wide open tight end. Well, now we've got the clip, same exact play. And instead, what does he do? He bodies him up and puts it a little bit back shoulder, throws a firm ball. That's an easy touchdown on the tight end. So to me, those were two clips where I thought his ball placement was good. He still needs to, in my opinion, the one way that they're going to get better, the kind of thing that still jumps out on tape to me is there's still accuracy issues. Every once in a while, you'll see him kind of airmail quick game, or he throws it over his receiver's head in a screen look, and you're like, what the heck happened? To me, it's all footwork related. There's some really easy changes he could make to speed up his feet. So, not to get too technical, but he's got his right foot back, which means he takes his left foot and then his right foot again. So it's really a punch one. When he's trying to throw these things, he really just needs to catch and go because he's got his right foot back. He doesn't even need to move his left foot. Catch, barely flip your hips and get this thing out. It's going to speed him up, which is going to make him more accurate in those quick games. But that's the kind of clear thing for me that's the next step is now let's be 100% in the screen game. Let's be 100% in our quick game efficiency. And I think he's going to get all that done with his feet. I'd love to see that change get made in the season. I don't know if the Bears view it as an in-season change. But I do think that's one way that this offense can get even better, than the 30-plus points that they just dropped against the Dolphins.
There was one more ball placement throw where it's the difference between accuracy, and I'm using air quotes, Tim. I know you can't see me.
Yeah.
Accuracy and ball placement at the end of the game, where the ball placement on the ball that Equanimeous St. Brown dropped was amazing. And him being on the run on that play and having that type of accuracy, that's one of those moments where the play fails, but I'm looking at it going, oh my God, that's the type of play that there aren't a ton of guys in the league that can make it.
No, and that's what's so exciting about this, right? I feel like, it's progressively gotten more and more exciting commenting on the Bears, but I really think what separates Fields is that he's making the throws from the pocket, like the one to Mooney that was a big-time throw that ends up in a touchdown. He's making some of those throws. He's making these read zone chunk plays. But his escapability, right? I feel like a broken record, but I come on here every week, and it's like I love the QB design run, but those big-time scrambles, his touchdown run that was absolutely insane, what was that on? QB design run? No, it's a scramble, and that's where he's going to be the most dynamic. But then like you're talking about, too, the final play, he gets out of the pocket and he's got his eyes up and he delivers a strike. So that's where it's like there's the reason Justin is so exciting to me is because there's not that many guys on planet Earth that can do that, right? Like if he was just winning from the pocket, it's one thing. If you're just winning with your legs, it's another thing. The fact that he's doing both, those are the kind of guys that you sit and you look at in Buffalo, right? And you go like, dude, guy might be one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Josh Allen. And what does he do? He does both. And that's what I think is so exciting about Justin and why, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm thinking, man, let's build around this kid. Let's, get him some help up front. Let's get him a couple more weapons. And let's see if we can win shootouts. Like, listen, think about everything the Dolphins have going for them in terms of Tyreek Hill, Waddle. They just traded for Chubb. And it was a 3-point game?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like anyone's sitting there and being like, you know what, the Bears really sold out this offseason to go get him weapons, right? So to me, it's like the fact that you haven't sold out to go and get things around this kid, and it's a 3-point game with an organization that basically, with the Chubb trade, indicated that they are in a absolute win-now season. Like, that is such a good sign for this organization. So I think I'm really excited about where it's going. They need to continue to trend in the right direction. I would continue to challenge Justin, hey, man, let's be perfect in our quick game and our screen game. And I think if he gets there, I just don't know how you stop this offense with everything else that they're adding to it.
It's obvious that sleight of hand is critical for Justin Fields. And these are little subtle things that do a lot to change the angles of a defense, particularly immediately post-snap. How does one practice fakes and knowing whether or not, unless you can see the reaction of a safety or a linebacker or a defensive end at game speed, unless you can measure it and go back and see it on tape, how can you know you're getting there with it? If you're coaching it, how do you say that was a good one or that needs this work? Like what separates knowing from not?
Gosh, it's such a great question. So to me, what we always talk to our guys about is you have to, so let's just talk about like a pump fake in general, right? You have to attack the fake as if you're throwing it, right? Like you can always tell a guy who's going through the motions on a pump fake or going through the motions on a run game fake. You have to attack the fake as if it's an actual, so the power boot, you got, the one
right.
that he boots and then hits command. It is a perfect example of that is exactly how you run power. From a footwork perspective, from a 2 hands to 1 hand on the fake, you have to attack the fake exactly and then trust that backside DN. Because that backside DN could have easily not adjusted his angle and rocked Fields right in the back, right? Instead, slightly adjusts his angle. Now Fields gets outside. We're able to bypass everybody because the linebackers bit because the fake was so good. So to me, it's all about you have to attack the fake as if it's the actual deal, man. I'm taking, if you're under center and you're doing 3 pump to like a sluggo, you've got to take a legit 3. You've got to, hey, I'm throwing the slant. Oh, never mind. Let me kick back and let this thing rip. So that's really what he's got to continue to work on. I think the boot on the power fake was a really good step of showing his mastery over the whole offense. And I just think he's got to continue. He's got to stay in the process, continue to grind at it, because we will have one more rough game at some point this season. And what it can't be
or more than one.
Yeah, and what it can't be is, okay, now let's throw this out. He's got to continue to stay engaged in the process. By everything that I've heard from that kid in post-game pressers and everything, I think he's going to. It's just a matter of the coaches, I think, staying on him. Because the one thing that I don't want to see Justin turn into is like the Cam Newton effect in Carolina, where the results were so good that they stopped grinding him on the process. You have to keep grinding him on the process. You can't just let him get away with being the best kid on the playground. And to me, I think you see it with some of these elite guys sometimes. Like Josh Allen's been making some dumb decisions late in games. You have to stay on these guys because it's not about the results. Hey, we scored 31 or 32 against the Dolphins. It's about staying engaged in the process and grading out 100%. And that's the
how
only
much of that is on the pupil? How much of that is on the quarterback to need that, to crave that continued coaching and to show you, the coach, that they want more?
Yeah, it's a mix. The best guys are always self-driven, right? The best guys are always the guys who, if you're a coach and you're trying to gas them up, they're looking you in the eyes and they're saying, F that, what did I do wrong? Right? Those are always going to be the best guys. But I do think sometimes early on in a guy's career, you start to get some money, you start to have everyone in town feeling you. You have to have someone in your corner who's going to be like, listen, man, it's even sweeter, right? Getting to the playoffs, winning a championship, winning a world title is even sweeter, right? Like you have to, I think, have someone mentoring in that way. And as long as they have that in building from a quarterback perspective, I think the sky's the limit. The only thing that I worry about is, we get too results driven of, oh, look how good our run game is. Let's just call in whatever because we know he can make it happen. And I think we've got to stay on him about his decision-making, got to stay on him in the process because that's what's going to really get this team to where all of a sudden you look up and, they're the new people dominating that division. And that division looks wide open. I know the Vikings are playing good football right now. The Packers, you can kind of almost say, like, are they on the back half of, what was the Aaron Rodgers run?
Yep.
So to me, I do think that division's open. I think Kirk can always, surprise you and all of a sudden go 4 games in a row, letting 3 picks rip. So I think that division's wide open. And I think Fields can be that guy who takes the next step, but they have to be in building, grinding him. And then he has to be in building saying like, no, I want you guys to hold me accountable because we're going to go win a world championship.
Tim, I know that you broke down tape on Tua in this game too. And obviously, like, he doesn't have some of the physical gifts of Justin Fields. I'm curious, what are the things that you like about Tua?
Yeah, Tua, I mean, I don't want people to yell at me in Chicago, but Tua's playing at an MVP level, man. He is the guy that you sit there and you go, I'm not impressed by his foot speed. I'm not impressed by his arm ability, but the way he plays the game in terms of moving defenders with his eyes, like Chicago gave him such a tough look. There was a snap defensively where they make it look like it's cover 1 robber. They have a cover 1 play to one aspect of their 3 receiver set. Then all of a sudden Chicago snaps back. They run cover 2. Tua looks at the cover 1 and he goes, okay, never mind, resets, and then hits Jalen Waddle down the middle. And it's like, gosh, that is such a high level post-snap decision from an NFL quarterback. So that's what I think makes him so tough, is I do think he's what you really want these guys to develop into, which is I'm making every decision correct post-snap. Listen, he missed a wide open go route that would have sealed the game, right? And then he missed a tight end when he was on the move. So those are things that he's got to clean up from a physical perspective. But in terms of getting to the right spot, I don't know if there's anyone doing it better than Tua right now. But I also think, I don't know if there's anyone drawing up more diabolical stuff from an offensive perspective than the Dolphins. And you guys, everybody in Chicago got to look at it this week with all the pre-snap motion that they do. It just puts these defenders in such a hard spot. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you could look at and criticize some of the Bears defensive players on, but it's like at the same time, like, you have a linebacker who now all of a sudden just got picked by 2 receivers and needs to try to get to the running back in the flat, he's not going to get there, right? Like the dude wants to get downhill and make a tackle. That's the last thing he's thinking about. And they're just drawing up some really dynamic stuff that I think Chicago is getting towards as well. But Miami is just kind of, that one iteration ahead right now.
What do you do if you have a pupil that comes in and you see that they clearly have dual threat ability? How do you go about trying to nurture some of the stuff that they would do in the run game along with helping them get better in the pass game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, listen, we have a guy who's a great example of it with PJ Walker, right? Like, PJ, now he's starting in Carolina, and he'll get the nod again this Thursday. Like, PJ is a kid who's super dynamic with his feet. The bottom line, though, is you have to, and PJ understands it, but it's one of those things you got to drive home the fact that, like, we are a quarterback first, right? We're a thrower first, and then we are going to become even more explosive because we can move around. And I think as guys hang in the league longer, they start to get it more and more because it's not college. So to me, it's just, trying to show them tape of everything they could be from the pocket, which a lot of these guys, like if you're an NFL quarterback and you're an elite runner, like you are world class when it comes to athleticism. So a lot of these guys already have it. They just got to be, you got to lean into them and say, like, listen, here's how, we're going to get better in these 7 ways from playing from the pocket. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to become one of the best in the world because you can go extend the play too, that a lot of guys in the NFL can't do. So I think it's just staying on them from that perspective in the offseason and being honest with people, man. It's really hard nowadays when you start to have success to then stay on it, right? Have people in your corner that continue to push you. I hope Justin has that. I hope they have that in building for him, because that's really the only way that you see some of these guys hit this level of success and then start to struggle.
How much was Cole Kmet's improved production a function of the offense and the quarterbacking and the running game, and how much is him actually being better?
I think a lot of it is design. I think they're finally putting him in a really good design stand from the standpoint of like these push, you'll see him, he blocks for a split second and then releases, not only on that quick fade touchdown that Justin kind of back shoulders to him, but also on the boot. Right, I think they're designing better stuff that's more realistic in terms of his skill set. And then I think another big piece of it is the fact that Justin has his eyes in the right spot. And I think a lot of that, right, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but comes back to those pure progressions where Justin knows, okay, after this fake, boom, I know who's my first, I know who's my second, I know who's my third progression, and then he's getting there. And so to me, I think, a lot of it has to do with, the way they're setting him up. But I think a lot of it also has to do with Justin just knows, exactly where he needs to be with his eyes. And I think, he's obviously executing the back half of it, right? If you catch the ball and then, he gets skinny on the sideline and goes and scores on the boot, like that's a really good job by him too. So to me, I would give more credit to the design perspective of it, but I do think a little bit of it has to do with Justin playing more effectively. And then obviously, he's finishing some of these plays.